The Raiders world is buzzing again, and honestly, it feels like we're on the edge of something big. I know everyone is hungry for clarity, and I'm right there with you. The rumors, the interviews, the flights, the speculation, it's all moving so fast that it's hard to keep up. But here's what I'm hearing and what makes the most sense based on the latest developments. The Raiders have been seriously interested in Davis Webb, and the level of attention has been real. When you see ownership flying in for a second interview, you know it's not just casual curiosity. This wasn't a quick stopover or a meet and greet. We're talking about a 16-hour flight just to sit in a room and evaluate a candidate. That kind of investment tells you everything you need to know. Now, it's not just Webb on the radar. From what I've been told, the Raiders have also shown major interest in Brian Daboll and Joe Brady. Whether they're considering them as head coach options or offensive coordinator candidates, that part isn't fully clear yet. What we do know is that the team has been looking at multiple directions, and they're doing it seriously. A lot of people are asking why this process feels different, and I think it's because the Raiders have historically operated in a way that is more reactive than deliberate. There have been times where decisions were made quickly, almost immediately after a game or an event. But lately, it seems like they're taking a step back, letting things settle, and then making a move when they feel certain. That's a new approach for this franchise, and it could be a sign of real change. There's a pattern here that reminds me of how the Raiders handled coaching transitions in the past. Different regimes have had different styles. Some moved fast and decisive, while others took their time, weighed everything, and then announced their decision the next day. It's not apples to apples, but the vibe is similar. And if this is the way they're choosing to operate now, it means we should be prepared for announcements that might come after the fact. They could be sitting on the decision, letting it marinate, and then dropping the news when they feel it's the right moment. If you ask me who I believe will end up being the next head coach of the Raiders, I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's Davis Webb. And I want to be clear, I'm not claiming to have insider confirmation. I'm not pretending to be a reporter or saying I know something definitive. What I'm sharing is what I'm hearing and what makes the most sense based on the pieces of the puzzle that are falling into place. If I had to place a bet on who the Raiders will choose, my money would be on Webb. He has clearly made an impression on the organization, and the way he's been described by those in the building suggests he has the qualities they value most. One of the most consistent themes I've heard is that Webb's ability to teach and coach stood out. That's not something you can fake. It's not a trait that gets built overnight. The Raiders, like any team, are looking for a coach who can communicate, develop players, and build a culture. And if Webb is presenting himself as someone who can do that, it makes sense why he's getting serious consideration. Now, I didn't get a full breakdown of everything that happened during the interview, so I can't say exactly what was said or how it went. But the fact that multiple people in the organization walked away impressed is a strong sign. Let's talk about what the Raiders value. They want people who live and breathe football. They want someone who is obsessed with the game, who thinks about it constantly, who doesn't clock out at 5. That's the kind of mindset that matches the identity of the organization's leadership. And when you look at Webb's background, it fits. He comes from a football family. His dad was a coach for decades, and Webb grew up around the game. He didn't just play football, he lived it. That kind of upbringing builds a certain type of coach, one who understands the grind, the details, and the mentality required to succeed. There was an old article from back in 2017 that resurfaced, and it paints a picture of Webb that makes a lot of sense. It describes how he was so invested in the culture of football that he would show up to spring practices, watch every drill, and pay attention to the communication between players and coaches. He wasn't just there for the highlight moments. He was there to learn, to study, and to absorb everything. It said he would talk to strength coaches for hours, then go back inside and watch tape. He was trying to determine where he would have the best opportunity to get into the league. That kind of dedication is rare, and it's exactly what you want in a head coach. The article also highlighted Webb's work ethic and drive. He was described as someone who would be in the facility early and leave late, someone who was constantly grinding and never satisfied. That level of commitment is what builds a culture. It's what sets a tone for the entire organization. And if Webb brings that mindset to Las Vegas, it could be a big step toward changing the narrative around the Raiders. One thing that stands out is how Webb was involved in football from a young age. He was drawing up plays and suggesting ideas before he even hit high school. That's the kind of football intelligence that doesn't just come from being around the game. It comes from genuinely understanding it. By the end of his time at Cal, he was running offensive meetings and actively participating in coaching discussions. That's a rare quality for someone who is still early in their coaching journey. It shows a coach who is already thinking at a higher level. And here's the key point. Webb's presence is correlated with quarterback development in multiple situations. There are several examples where quarterbacks improved significantly while he was involved in their coaching. Whether you agree with every detail or not, you can't ignore the pattern. He has worked with some of the best defensive minds in the league, and the fact that he's been trusted in those environments suggests he has earned respect. That's not something that happens by accident. Now, I know some people are nervous about the idea of hiring Webb because he's still unproven as a head coach. And I get that. But if you're worried about resumes, you have to look at the bigger picture. There are coaches with impressive resumes who didn't fit their situation. There are also coaches with less traditional paths who thrive because they're the right fit. The Raiders have struggled for a long time because they've tried to force the wrong fits into their system. It's time to stop searching for a perfect resume and start searching for the right match. If Webb becomes the head coach, the biggest factor will be who the Raiders bring in as coordinators. That's the part that will determine whether this hire is a success. Webb can be the leader, but he needs the right supporting cast. The offensive coordinator especially will be crucial. Webb has shown he can work within strong offensive minds, but he also needs someone who complements his strengths and fills in gaps. That's what will decide whether the Raiders move forward or stay stuck in the same cycle. And yes, there are other names being discussed, like Brian Daboll and Joe Brady. Both are strong candidates for coordinator roles, and both have their own strengths. Daboll has a strong connection to Webb and has been part of successful quarterback development. Brady has experience and has shown he can lead an offense. The Raiders could be trying to evaluate these options and see who fits best with their vision. If you're a Raiders fan, you should be excited about the possibility of Webb as head coach and Daboll or Brady as offensive coordinator. That's a combination that could actually build something. The Raiders' coaching search has taken on a new intensity, and honestly, the more you dig into it, the more you realize how much is at stake. The organization has been through so many cycles of hope and disappointment that fans have developed a kind of reflexive skepticism. It is not just about hiring a coach. It is about hiring someone who can break a pattern that has lasted for decades. And when you look at the names being discussed, you start to see why the Raiders are being careful. They're trying to find someone who is not just a good coach on paper, but someone who fits the culture, the expectations, and the unique pressures of this franchise. Now, let's talk about Brian Daboll because he has been a name that keeps popping up in connection with the Raiders. Daboll is a coach with a strong reputation for quarterback development and offensive creativity. He has a proven track record in the NFL, and his resume is one of the most respected in the league. But here's the thing. Daboll is also a guy who has options. He is not just sitting around waiting for one opportunity. There are rumors that he could end up with a head coaching job elsewhere, or that he could take the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator position if that becomes available. So the question becomes, is the Raiders' offer compelling enough to attract him? And even more importantly, would he want to come to Las Vegas and be part of a rebuilding process that has been historically unstable? There's a strong argument to be made that the Raiders' situation is actually more appealing than it looks on the surface. The team has a rich history, a passionate fan base, and a new era of leadership that seems genuinely committed to building something sustainable. The opportunity to be part of that transformation could be exciting for a coach like Daboll. But the Raiders have to sell it properly. They have to show that they have a clear vision, a stable structure, and a plan to support the coach they hire. If they can do that, it could make the difference between landing Daboll or losing him to another team. Then there is Joe Brady, another name that has been linked to the Raiders' coaching search. Brady has had success at various levels, and he has shown the ability to build an offense that can produce big plays and develop talent. He has a reputation for being innovative and forward-thinking, and that is something that the Raiders could benefit from. But like any coach, the fit matters. The The Raiders need someone who can align with the overall direction of the team and who can work effectively with the head coach, whoever that may be. If Webb is indeed the frontrunner, the offensive coordinator has to be someone who complements his style and helps elevate the offense in a way that makes sense for the roster. And this is where things get really interesting, because if Webb is hired, the Raiders would need a coordinator who can bring stability and structure. Webb is still early in his head coaching journey, and while he's shown the ability to teach and develop quarterbacks, he will need experienced voices around him. That is where a coach like Dable could be incredibly valuable. Dable has been in the league for a long time, and he has a deep understanding of offensive systems and quarterback development. He has worked with some of the best minds in football, and his presence could help bridge the gap between Webb's potential and the realities of building a winning team. On the other hand, there is something to be said for a more dynamic offensive mind like Joe Brady. Brady has shown he can create an exciting offense, and he has a vision that could bring energy and innovation to the Raiders. If the Raiders are looking to build an offense that is not just efficient, but also explosive, Brady could be the guy to do it. But the question remains whether he would be the right partner for Webb, and whether the two of them would be able to build a cohesive identity together. Now, the other side of this coaching search is the defensive coordinator, which is just as crucial. The Raiders' defense has been a weak point for years, and it is not something that can be fixed with a single hire. The team needs a defensive coordinator who can bring a clear philosophy, discipline, and the ability to develop players. If the Raiders are going to move forward, they need a defense that can compete, and that means finding the right leader for that side of the ball. The head coach and defensive coordinator have to be on the same page, because the Raiders cannot afford to have disjointed leadership. The coordination between offense and defense is what builds a team that can win consistently. But here's the real challenge. The Raiders have been through so many failed attempts that it is hard to trust the process. Even when the team hires a coach who seems like the right fit, the result has often been disappointing. Fans have been conditioned to expect the worst, and that skepticism is understandable. The Raiders have not just lost games, they have lost faith. So the next coach has to do more than win. He has to rebuild trust. He has to show that the organization is moving in the right direction and that the culture is changing. That is why the coaching search is so important. It is not just about the X's and O's. It is about rebuilding the identity of the Raiders. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers are growing louder across the NFL universe, and this time, they're aimed squarely at the Las Vegas Raiders. The team that once carried a swagger rivaled by few now seems to be the subject of both criticism and cautionary tales, especially after the latest jabs from outspoken commentator Pat McAfee. In his typically unfiltered style, McAfee didn't hold back, claiming that the Raiders are the place where careers go to die, and questioning who in their right mind would take the helm of the franchise in its current state. The remark has sent shockwaves through the league's rumor mill. For years, the Raiders have been synonymous with audacity and a kind of rebellious charm. But beneath the silver and black veneer, internal reports suggest instability, inconsistent leadership, and management decisions that leave even veteran coaches scratching their heads. The franchise's recent history of high-profile departures and short-lived coaching tenures seems to give McAfee's words more weight than mere hyperbole. If nothing else, his comment sparks a conversation about what it really takes to succeed in a franchise that oscillates between flashes of brilliance and long stretches of turbulence. Insiders are now speculating. Could McAfee's critique affect the next hiring cycle? There are murmurs that top-tier candidates are hesitating, weighing the risks of joining a team that comes with as much baggage as promise. Some agents reportedly advise their clients to think twice before signing anything, citing the need for both patience and thick skin in a market that has grown increasingly impatient with mediocrity. Meanwhile, fans and pundits alike are dissecting McAfee's blunt message, some agreeing that the franchise's current trajectory seems perilous, while others argue that a visionary coach could turn the narrative around, restoring the Raiders' legendary mystique. The conversation isn't just about one man's opinion. It's about a franchise at a crossroads, a team with history, hype, and heartbreak all entwined. McAfee's words are a spark, and a league is now watching to see who dares to grab the ignited torch, or whether the Raiders will once again find themselves in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. As the speculation swirls, one thing is certain. No team in the NFL seems to provoke this much debate, intrigue, and cautious fascination, and the next move could define the Raiders for years to come. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.